Hello everyone, this is Nammernan, and today I'll be going over the poison team that I use to complete my Monotype hard mode challenge. Now, as a reminder, Monotype hard mode challenge is me having to be at above 1400 elo and complete one of three things with my team, which is to have either no S rank mods, have one D rank mod and have it actually do something, or create a stall team for a type that's not known for it. Poison is unfortunately a type that is known for stall, so I did not do that option. So instead, I opted to go for a team that didn't use any of its S ranks, since they seemed very droppable in my opinion. Not to say that these mods aren't good, because obviously Galarian Weezing is very, very good on Poison. And Mokololo is also pretty decent, but I think it is possible for me to build a usable team without these two, and be able to get some ladder wins, especially above the 1400s. So I did that. I did just that, as you can see from this team right here. Now, to explain what I want to do with this team, the main goal was definitely just to try and make a standard team that just doesn't use the top mods. So I ended up making so my replacement for Alolan Muck was to just use Overquill instead, since I didn't want to use Skuntank because I don't particularly like how that mod works, and also I needed a decent hazard setter as well. So I decided to just roll compress my Psychic Immunity and my Hazard Setter, and I made Overquill work the way it does. Made him fully defensive. I was thinking about making this a Hyper Offense team, but then I realized it probably wouldn't be that great of an idea, especially since I'm literally killing my Psychic Resist at the beginning of every game, so I didn't want to double down on that typing. So I just decided that it's probably best if I just make a normal balance team. So yeah, this is physically offensive, with spikes and toxic spikes, bar barrage, crunch, very standard set, nothing too unusual here. I did think about giving this a water move to help deal with ground types, but I realized that it probably wouldn't be that beneficial compared to just having the two stabs and toxic spikes as well, since I don't have toxic spikes anywhere else on my team. Next one we have is Clodsire. I opted to go for an unaware set on this spawn, due to the fact that obviously it's a very good special wall, but it also just prevents runaway special sweepers from occurring. And this spawn will just by its own threat, since most people don't know if it's unaware or not, they will just assume that it's water absorb, so they might end up setting up in front of it, thinking that it's water absorb, but it's actually not. Now, unfortunately, I didn't really decide to use Haze on this because the amount of movesets, or the amount of slots I needed to cover with this Pokemon's moveset were intense, because I needed something that could hit Heatran that wasn't Sneasler, that could consistently come in on it. And Clodsire kind of was the only thing that could do that without either losing a bunch of HP or just simply getting switched out of. So I decided to make him use low kick so that he could hit Heatran. And yeah, the rest of the set is pretty standard otherwise. I also opted to put Stealth Rock on it, since I believe Stealth Rock is still a very, very good move. Even with the introduction of Heavy Duty Boots, I feel like not having Stealth Rock still feels pretty bad in general, even though I already have Spikes. And plus, more chip damage against walls is always helpful, especially for a balanced team like this. So, figured it would do pretty well. Now, next spawn I have is Pekarunt. This spawn is pretty standard set as well, just Malignant Chain, Parting Shot. Or I opted for Parting Shot instead of a Nasty Blow, since I wanted this to be more of a pivot and less of a sweeper. Because as you can see from my type, I don't really have that many pivots, so I kind of needed something that could go into my two sweepers, being Gengar and Sneasler. And Pekka also is just a very good progress maker in general with Malignant Chain and Poison Puppeteer combo, just allowing it to toxic something and either get them to hurt themselves with confusion or to just create an opportunity of uncertainty for my opponent. So I can go to one of my other walls safely and be able to do what I need to do. Also, opted for some physical defense on this one. You'll see that a majority of my Pokemon are physically defensive, the defensive ones at least, because I just figured Clodsire would be more than enough due to the fact that it has Unaware, so it wouldn't really need to worry about a specific set of physical setup sweepers. In retrospect, I feel like I maybe should have used Haze or some sort of phasing move on this one, but I just could not fit it because I definitely wanted Earthquake due to the fact that it's uniquely a ground type on my team, and I needed to make sure I at least used that stab so that I can be using this mod properly. But yeah, functionally I think this set might not have been the most optimal, but I still like the results it gave me, so I can't be too bad. But yeah, I opted for regular Weezing as well since I wanted a ground immunity that wasn't reliant on Balloon specifically. So yeah, I used regular Weezing instead of Galarian Weezing. Regular Weezing, honestly, not the worst. And he also ended up being my Haze user. Obviously not optimal for special attacking threats, but still a Hazer, so does what it needs to do for my team, stops physical threats from getting out of control, and stops certain special threats from getting out of control. Sludge Bomb, Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, a very standard set. This is basically just a worse Galarian Weezing, essentially. You can replace Sludge Bomb with Strange Steam, for example, and it's basically like the same set. But yeah, nothing too revolutionary with this set. It's just worse Galarian Weezing for all intents and purposes. And now we can move on to my sweepers. I have Choice Specs Gengar with Trick, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, and Focus Blast. I tried to experiment with another coverage move on this one, but I find that Trick is just a little too important because my team is like generally pretty passive outside of Gengar and Sneasler. So if I'm going against a more bulky team, like against something like Corviknight, I find it's very difficult for me to create an opening against that Pokemon specifically, especially if they're especially defensive. So I decided to opt for a Trick so that I could mess up not only it, but I could also mess up Gliscor and a couple of other key mons that can be very annoying for this type to deal with. So yeah, that's why I opted for Trick instead, and then these moves cover most of what I want to hit as well. I was thinking about doing a Hex instead of Shadow Ball, so it could combo well with Pekka and Overquill's Toxic Spikes, but I found that it's just a bit too inconsistent, that I'm losing way too much power for something I can just use regular Shadow Ball for, and the special defense drop is also just not bad. And it's good for pace breaking, so I opted for this instead. Now you may be wondering why I didn't decide to make this Choice Scarf, but my reasoning for not making this Choice Scarf was mainly I needed a very strong breaker, because as I mentioned before, my team's very, very passive outside of these two mons, so I decided I'd just go for a very hard hitting set, and Gengar's already pretty fast as is. Same speed tier as Ogerpon and everything, so I figured it would probably be fine if I just left it like this. I just made a Choice Specs thing so that most special walls expecting it to be Choice Scarf will get a nasty surprise when they get hit by its Shadow Ball. And last mon is Sneasler, who I end up giving an Air Balloon with the Unburdened combo, Swords Dance, very standard Unburdened Sweeper Sneasler set. Went for an Adamant Nature, since Unburdened basically covers all speed issues I would need to worry about. But yeah, nothing too remarkable here. But yeah, that is the team. It's a very bulky offense team, I will say. But it does do... It actually worked surprisingly pretty decent in my testing. I actually managed to get 3 viable replays with this team. Actually, almost got to 1500s with it alone. It was actually very surprisingly effective, considering that it's missing two very important bonds on the type. So, if I were to give an honest review, I would say either Picarunt needs to go up a tier, or Clodsire needs to go up a tier, because those two mons were the ones that were doing a lot of work in my testing. Oh yeah, and Overquill's also a D-rank mon, so I'm extremely double dipping, but it was my only option at the time. But yeah, it was just, I had a lot of options with Poison. I was actually kind of overwhelmed for options, because I wanted to use a Iron Moth team, but I found that I wanted to have Spin Blocker, and ended up, originally this team didn't have Picarunt, but I ended up putting Picarunt on. And in retrospect, I probably could have put Iron Moth in here instead of Gengar, but I do like what Gengar offers with Trick more than I do with Iron Moth, so I don't know. It's just I found that this team just worked the best out of the teams I ended up building. So yeah. Move on to the replays. So first replay we got here is against Ice. Ice isn't really known for being a good type, but I decided to lead with Picarunt because I figured he would go into one of his physical threats. He leads with Mamoswine. I predicted go into Weezing, start with a Sludge Bomb because I expected him to switch out. He did not. So I ended up Will-O-Wisping him. I'm smacked down here now, so I'm thinking about switching out. I go into Overquill, intimidate him. He takes no damage because he's physically defensive. And I end up getting a Spike off, which is very good for me. So yeah, we get the Spike. I go straight into Picarunt to stop the Alolan Sand/Rapid Spin. Alolan Sand/Slash uses knockoff. This is unideal for me, but I use Parting Shot to pivot into my Sneasler. Alolan Sand/Slash is in danger. He sent out his Ninetales. I put Close Combat. Ninetales doesn't die. Sent out Mamoswine because he doesn't want to lose his Ninetales. I swap into Gengar, thinking that it might have been a... Although this is incredibly unlucky, he managed to live on 1 HP. I end up getting smacked down. Now, Gengar still had Levitate, that would have been worse, but obviously it doesn't have it anymore, so it actually didn't matter there. Alright, I get knocked off here, putting the Weezing into the Alolan Sand/Slash. I could have swapped into Picarunt here, but I didn't, because I wanted to get the burn on this thing, so it didn't pose a threat to me later on in the game. I end up Pain Splitting it here, gaining a bunch of HP on my Weezing. So we swap back into Overquill, intimidate this thing again. He crits here, but I know that I can take another hit, so I end up clicking Spikes here, and then I go back into Picarunt, I believe. Yep, I go back into Picarunt. He blocks the Rapid Spin. He tries to click Knockoff again, but it doesn't really do anything. I click Hex. This is a bit risky from me, because I probably should have used it for Recover, knowing that he would just do that. But yes, now I'm risking getting Encored by Ninetales, and I do end up getting hit by the Encore. Cloyster comes in. I send in Weezing as my response. Now, luckily, Cloyster does not kill me here with Icicle Sphere. And I'm not sure if the better play was to click Pain Split or to Will-O-Wisp, but I assumed that he would try to Shell Smash in front of me, so I decided that going for the Will-O-Wisp would have been a better choice. And it was, I think, because now he's significantly weaker than he would be if I hadn't done that. Now Picarunt can come in for free, not have to worry about anything. Look at that pitiful damage. Unbelievable. Only 25% of my HP. And now that thing's gone. One of the scariest sweepers is gone. Now Weavile is the other concerning threat to my team. He immediately clicks Sword Stance, and I click Recover, thinking that he wouldn't stay in, but he did. I click Malignant Chain, I'm praying that it toxics here, and it does. Now, if I remember correctly, he does not get Confusion hit once this entire exchange. So Peckermint dies. This probably could have been played better than by this part here, but I end up just playing it slow, just slowly whittling him down, and sacking when I need to, just to make sure that I have enough to beat Kyurem and Ninetales, since I know now that Ninetales isn't Choice Scarf. I know Choice Scarf Ninetales isn't exactly a meta set, but I've seen it a little too much on the ladder, so I was a bit afraid of it. But yeah, we use Shadow Ball against the Ninetales, killing it instantly. I was hoping that this wasn't Choice Scarf, and thankfully it was not. We end up dying, but as Choice Specs Kyurem, he gets disabled by Cursed Body, and that is that. So that match was actually concerningly close, but as I said, I could have played a little bit better, especially against the Weavile. But overall, this match was a pretty good showing of my team. Now, obviously, does Galarian Weezing do better here? Absolutely, because it actually threatens Weavile, so I would have kept it alive for that. The mono poison typing didn't really do much for me here, besides make it not weak to Sand Slash, but Sand Slash was probably not going to do that much to Galarian Weezing anyway, to be real. So yeah, that is just the first replay. Second replay we have here against a Ghost team. Godango immediately tricks my Clodsire, so my Clodsire is very, very much less useful for this entire game. I stay in, trying to see what he's trying to do, and then I swap over into Overquill. He's getting whittled down by Black Sludge, this is why you use Black Sludge, by the way, and not Leftovers. So that if they trick you and they aren't a poison type, they get messed up like this. So I can send in Clodsire again as a response to him spamming Thunderbolt. And Clodsire is just very good, especially defensive mon, so it was pretty good to send him in here. Fluttermane comes out. I believe, yeah, this does not kill. And I get a really big Earthquake off. I live on 1 HP here, which is kind of unlucky on him. I probably should have died there. But even if I had died there, I still had something to check it with. I had a Overquill, because it was using a Shadow Ball, so it would have definitely survived. But yeah, we end up checking and killing the Ceruledge thanks to the Stealth Rocks. This is why I like Stealth Rocks, by the way, because Ceruledge is a mon that is very reliant on Focus Sash, and it's very annoying when you can't really kill it in one shot, when you have a good check for it. I end up selling Will-Wisp here. Galarian Weezing actually would have been a lot better here. But again, this is supposed to be Monotype hard mode, it's not supposed to be easy. He ends up flicking Dragon Dance twice, and because he's burned, I'm not particularly afraid of him, so I use this time to recover my Clodsire up to full HP for Spectre and Gengar. I put in Weezing, and I get ready to haste his boosts away. I take that like a champ. Again, Galarian Weezing would have been even more safe here. But yeah, I take the hits really well. I go back into Sneasler, thinking that he's going to hit me so I can activate my balloon, but then he just doesn't do that. He does it anyway, and I end up Sword Stancing here, right? Yeah. And so I proceed to sweep his team here, I believe, surviving the Sucker Punch purely because he was burned, by the way. And yeah, we have Throat Chop, so we are able to actually hit him super effectively. And I used Acrobatics there specifically because I suspected that the Cursed Body was going to mess me up. And I was right. I actually have to calc there to make sure that the Acrobatics actually killed Gengar from that HP, which it obviously should have very much done that, but I wanted to just make absolutely sure that it killed him there. But in retrospect, it's +2, 110 base power move. I absolutely kill a frail Gengar there. But yeah, that is another replay. And again, this person is in the 1400s, or was in the 1400s. They're actually the same rank at the time of this replay. But yeah, Inspector here obviously dies because I'm a burden product. But yeah, this just shows how important Stealth Rock is, and how important the hazards are, even with the heavy abundance of heavy duty boots. I still think having hazards is just great. And now our last replay against this normal team. This team, if I remember correctly, gave me a lot of trouble. Specifically this mon here, Staraptor. Oh, never mind, that's a different normal team. I forgot. Yeah, so he uses Final Gambit immediately. I was not expecting that, because I had gone against abandoned Staraptor like a couple of times before this replay happened. So I was thinking that it was going to be one of those. And I was getting ready to weaken it, but he just Final Gambited me, and well, the rest is history there. But yeah, we handshake the parting shot there. I swap into the Thunder Wave, expecting it, and I set up rocks. I don't have a hazard remover on this team, which is one of the big weaknesses, but I knew very well that I couldn't fit Rapid Spin on this team without lacking something severely. Because I could have used Tentacruel, but in my experience, Tentacruel is like very, very mid when it comes to being especially defensive Pokemon. And the lack of recovery is also just not great, so I ended up just opting to just not have hazard removal. Under the guise that people would just not use hazards as much as they do, but obviously everyone else clearly had the same thought process I did, where hazards are just way too good, especially on the ladder. So yeah, I'm walling this Terapagos while also trying to keep rocks up at the same time. Now, I don't think I'm going to end up keeping rocks here. And yeah, we figure out real quickly that this is a Alolan Zoroark. I perfectly predict that this is physical, because he had 2 special threats on his team, so I just knew that he had to be a physical Zoroark here. That was a very good call out. I used Sludge Bomb to try and damage him, and nothing happens. I end up healing his Zoroark here, because I was trying to pain split the Chansey, trying to get a cheesy amount of HP on my Weezing, but that did not end up happening. I put Will-O-Wisp on his Zoroark, knowing very well that Ditto would just not transform immediately. So, and we also literally saw his Ditto before, and we know it's transformed, so we know it's Zoroark. Now, why he chose to do Low Kick here, I'm not sure. But I think he was trying to look for an opportunity to put Meloetta in. But I think he realized at this point that he would be very much screwed. I'm really not sure why he put Low Kick there, though. I'm not sure why he thought that would kill. But yeah, that is the team. And as you can see, I got the 1460 with it. I almost could have gotten 1500 if I kept playing, but I did not. Because if I had gotten even more replays than 3, it probably would have made this video even longer than it already is. So, yeah. But yeah, that is the team. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This team was actually probably one of my more favorite teams. I might actually end up using this team to like climb on ladder a little in my pastime. But with that being said and done, let us pick the next type. And it's Ghost. Alright, I will see you guys next time.